Duplicating. That's what I wanted to talk about. This is kind of cool stuff for making duplications. It's your Sculpty or Fimo. It's a polymer clay, okay, and you bake it in the oven at a low temperature. It has to be low temperature. Bake it at a low temperature and it hardens. Okay, and then you can use that as your, instead of your green stuff, for your initial model thing that you're trying to make. In this case, well, here. 1 second. Okay, back. This is made from the Sculpty, and it's horses in water. Okay, in a water kind of fall wave. It's, you know, in Lord of the Rings when Gandalf puts the horses into the water and they come tearing down the river and take out the, you know, the bad guys, the Black Riders. Yeah, that's them. Okay, so then I made a mold out of it, and then I cast it with that clear epoxy resin. Okay, now I've got, you know, water horses. Okay, now the resin or the molding that I used for this stuff was just a cheap latex molding. Okay, and basically I took my initial Sculpting thing and I painted over a layer with that latex, let it dry, paint over a layer, let it dry, and you do that about 15-20 times and build up a mold. Okay, the nice stuff about the latex is when you've got a lot of detail on it like this, I've got a lot of undercuts in the design, the latex really stretches, okay, and you can stretch it off, okay, but it doesn't hold its shape if you've got a big thing. So if you're pouring something like this size, you have to kind of put it in between wood so that it doesn't bulge out on you and all that kind of stuff. Now the other thing I do is if I'm making a simple thing, let's say a pillar for something, and I want to duplicate the pillars all the way down the small little wall, okay, I can press it into plasticine. Okay, so you make your plasticine nice and soft, and something like, you know, these, oh here, these cake decorator pillars, okay, if you're making something, you know, Roman or well, I use these a lot for all kinds of stuff, eh, and then I add to them. You know, I'll press it into the plasticine, then I'll take some sort of design and I'll, you know, make patterns around it. Or one of the things I do is, here, I even got them right here this time, okay, is I take the green stuff, okay, and on a couple pieces of dowel I'll make little skull heads, okay. So now I've pressed this into the plasticine, okay. You take your little skull head on the end of your stick and you know, you poke around the base of it, okay, with your skull head. Now when you cast it, like let's say you pour hydrocal in it, or plaster of Paris, or, you know, plastic or whatever you're using for your casting medium, then when you take it out, you'll have your pillar with a whole bunch of little skulls piled around the bottom of it. It's kind of cool. So I use plasticine a lot for duplicating things. If you got extra money type thing, there is a product called Smooth On. It's a 2-part RTV rubber mold. RTV stands for room temperature vulcanizing. So you don't, otherwise you have to vulcanize it, high heat to set your rubber, okay? So this stuff is 2-part. They've got a putty and they've got, where you got these 2 putties and you mix them together, or they've got the pour method where you pour the 2, eh? There's a couple different types of that stuff too, okay? There's one where it's an equal part. You take, you know, part A, part B, and you mix them together. That stuff's a little bit more expensive and it's not quite as good. There's another version that's a sort of a silicone type, okay? And you need a good set of scales and you have to add it, you know, per weight, okay? And that's really good mold making. So if you want to do a whole bunch of duplicating, check out Smooth On products, okay? I was talking about plasticine casting. Here's one I did with using those little skull stamps. Okay, this was just in a chunk of plasticine. Okay, and I don't know what I used for the coil there, or something. Probably a piece of plastic, and it doesn't even look like it's very good. I probably just pressed that in the coil itself, and then I stamped it a bunch of times with little skull stamps. So now I've got kind of an alcove that I'll stick onto something that's filled full of skulls. It's kind of cool. Anyways, just make a little skull on the end of a dowel with your green stuff. Take your plaster seam, go up the plaster seam, I have it up here, like this. Soften it up, you know, take something like this, press it in halfway, so now you've got your half curve. Take your dowel with your little skull, you know, carved on the end of it, okay? And then just stamp it a whole bunch of times, press it all down, different angles and stuff. Then when you pour your plaster of Paris or your hydrocoal in there, it'll come out like this. Kind of cool. A little bit more on duplicating things. Take your plaster scene, okay? Go down to your Salmart store, your thrift store, your junk store, whatever. Go dig through their broken toy bin. You know, usually they have a big box of toys there, and lots of times they just throw this stuff out. So go talk to the people there at the, you know, this Salvation Army, whatever kind of store you have there where they collect used stuff and sell it really cheap, thrifty back to the people, okay? Anyways, check these ones out. I was down there today. I got girders. They're red plastic and stuff, but hey, press it into your plaster scene and fill it full of your plaster of Paris hydrocal, and you can build those in. They can be on the ground, you know, covered up with somewhat dirt and that, and you got a whole bunch of these all stacked up. These are really cool. These are light standards, and they're perfect size for 25 mil. There's a little 25 mil guy beside it there. Comes up there. Perfect size for 25 mils. There's I'm going to use this in the building that we're making here, actually. It's one of those stop things, so like at the, you know, the drive out coming out of the ramp from down below, you know, it's one of those levers. I mean, it's snugly orange, but we can paint that. That's cool. Anyways, I just wanted to show you those. Don't discount other toys. I mean, no, they're not made by Games Workshop, but hey, we're building terrain.